So, Dr. Steve, there was one last question about the Rothschilds. Can you go into that a little bit and refresh us there a little?
Okay, we're actually talking about a 15 or 20 member cartel. We call them the Rothschilds because we can't name them off. They call them Illuminati, all these, the elite. I mean, there's so many different names, but they hide behind BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. These are the corporations they hide behind. If you don't believe me, go to the SEC records on any major corporation in America and see who owns the majority of the stock. It's one of those three corporations. So that's what they hide behind. It's taken them 100 years of counterfeiting Federal Reserve money to get there. That's the reason it's taking so long to get woke. And that's the reason they're so bold right now, because they own the vast majority of the stock, all these corporations. So, but the Bank of International Settlements is at the peak. And they get most of their money from the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States. I mean, they control all the central banks, but that's where they get most of their money. So we got to cut off the money supply. How can you fight an enemy who can print their own money? It's impossible. That's the reason we keep losing. Kennedy tried to stop them with Executive Order 11,110 to abolish the Federal Reserve. Boy, he was gone within 3 weeks. So they've been trying to do this forever. I mean, they got rid of President Garfield in 1880 and President McKinley in 1901, trying to get a private bank in our system. Then from about 1901 to 1912, they kept trying to put in a congressional bill that would really let them take off. And there's a big, beautiful family by the name of Astor family and the Guggenheim family out of Massachusetts that had so much influence on Congress, they couldn't get it done. So they went to Europe in 1912, came back on the Titanic. So what does that tell you? They didn't hit an iceberg. They blew it up. In fact, that exposition a couple of years ago where they went 900 miles east of Boston to find it, that they knew it was there and they were going down. They had to get rid of those people because they were going to expose the real truth. Yeah, there was no iceberg. So they killed off the Astor and Guggenheim family, who had great influence on Congress. And a year later, by 1913, they took a quorum of Congress right before Christmas and bought off Woodrow Wilson and brought in the Federal Reserve Act. And then that's when really it all took off. That's when all the counterfeit money took off. And then in 1971, they got rid of all the backing of the dollar. So it'd be a dollar with no heavy metal backing through Nixon. And then they really took off, so it's unbelievable, the money. In fact, Ben Bernanke in 2014 went before a couple courageous congressmen, and they asked him, we're missing $28 trillion out of the Treasury. And he laughed. He said, I'm not telling you. And they said, why are you not telling me? And he said, because with the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, we're accountable to nobody. And he gets up and walks out after stealing $28 trillion, not billion dollars.
So, Dr. Steve, what do you think is going to happen in the future with the dollar and the BRICS? There's a question about that. Where's this Rothschild banking? How do we defeat them, and where's it going?
Well, BRICS is trying to do it. See, we're flip-flopped. This Gaza war was actually staged. The Israelites today that they claim to be Israelites are actually fake Jews. That's where we get the synagogue of Satan in Scripture. They're just claiming to be Jewish. They've been claiming to be Jewish since 1948. Prior to 1948, it was Palestine for 2,000 years. And so this fact that they're fake, and they had to stage the Gaza war because about 2 years ago, they discovered a tremendous amount of oil and gas offshore Gaza. And they want to drill that up, and they don't want to give the royalty or the revenue to the Palestinians, so they have to get rid of them. They also want to put in a new Suez Canal because Egypt's getting $10 billion a year for the old Suez Canal that's too shallow and too narrow. So they want to bring it right through Gaza and have a new canal. That's what it's all about. Did you know that 15% of all Palestinians are Catholic? It's unbelievable. I had a Catholic friend of mine fly over and sit down with me, and he educated me a lot about what's really going on. It's not a war between Muslims and Jews. It's trying to get rid of all the Palestinians in the greater Israel so they can start making a lot more money. It's unbelievable. So I probably didn't answer the question completely, but I got carried away by them. But that's what's really going on. These wars have been staged ever since World War One. It just took a year after the Federal Reserve Act to start World War One. It was staged and funded both sides. So was the Great Depression. So was World War Two. So was Vietnam, Korea. All that's been staged. If it wasn't for the Federal Reserve, we probably wouldn't have. We'd had wars, but nothing like what we had today or in the past. So they've been, and Kennedy tried to stop it, thank God, and Reagan talked about it. Just talking about it, they tried to kill him. And then once Reagan realized what they were trying to kill him about, he let Big George Bush take over as president, basically. Well, Bush is one of the most corrupt families that's ever existed on the planet Earth. And I'm from Texas, and I'm trying to run them out of Texas.